All right, it's Paulicia Aguilar. I am your relationship coach. What I want to talk about today is, are the sparks fading? And I have the privilege and the pleasure to be interviewing a wonderful and amazing relationship and sex coach. So we're going to get into some questions here today, Mr. Ronnie Walker. And I just want to give you a little bit of background information because he can do a much better job in explaining what it is that he does. So Mr. Ronnie Walker is a native New Yorker, master coach of exceptional relationships and sex. He's an experienced certified relationship coach, a certified sexual wellness coach, and certified neuro-linguistic practitioner and facilitator. It is my pleasure to present to you Mr. Ronnie Walker.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, folks. How are we doing?
So tell me just a little bit about, tell our listeners just a little bit about what it is that you do and how you came into being a relationship and a sex coach.
Wow. I'm going to give you the condensed version in that, in the beginning, I was pretty much a financial coach,
Okay.
like investments and things of this nature. And I found that dealing with couples was a challenge in that you would find two different mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how they can agree to walk down the aisle, but when it comes to saving for finances, college education, or retirement, there was always a challenge.
Yeah.
So it was then that I delved into learning more about that and why.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself being more of a coach, a relationship coach, than a finance person.
Yeah.
And from there, I went and just decided, you know what, I'm really going to study this because this is something I think that more people need to know more about.
Mm-hmm.
And in short, here I am.
Yes. Well, we're anxious to hear. The listeners don't really know. I'm anxious to hear because we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. And one of the things that I've been providing information to those listeners and people looking for their breakthrough is how to actually get through this time. Like, I've been seeing an increase in couples arguments and things, especially during this pandemic. So what I wanted to bring light to is, how do we tackle and get that spark back? So that's why I titled this live, Are the Sparks Fading? So if you're listening right now, I want you to tag your friend, tag a couple. I want you to write your questions down, because once you do that, then we'll be able to answer and respond. Or Ronnie will be able to answer and respond as well, and give you some insight and feedback into what it is that you can do to bring that spark back. So let me get into my first question, Mr. Ronnie. During this pandemic, what have you actually seen to be like the biggest stressors between couples? Because you said it's interesting that it's amazing how we walk down the aisle and we're so excited. And then when it comes to that other part about the finances, which are a lot of couples are feeling the strain of what's going on, being laid off on their jobs and just working from home. What have you been seeing as the biggest stress between couples?
I find that in many cases, couples have had to face what they've been running from for so long. So it was easy to say, we'll deal with this later because I'm working overtime, or I have to travel, or things of this nature, or the kids. They are now left to confront what they have to deal with.
Ooh.
And if you are addressing this under the stress of not knowing whether you're going to have any more income coming in, what's the situation with your job? The children are now home because of distance learning. You have what they call a perfect storm. Yeah. The key to remember is that as bad as you think it is, it's not worse than it is. Yeah. That's powerful because just like you said, with the hustle and bustle, I think of how everything has been. Now this is couples and, your significant other, however you want to term it, this is the new norm. And so being able to adjust in this transition, even though, like you said, it feels like I'm about to, strangle my spouse, we're at each other's throats. It really is a time to sort of fine tune some of those things that, like you said, that you've not been confronted
running, i.e. maybe the finances. This is a time, even if you are feeling the strain of losing the job, like how are we going to pull this together? What other avenues do we have that we can actually work closer together? So that brings me to my next question, because when you're talking about kids and finances and things like that, it pulls you further away from being intimate. It pulls you further away from that feeling. If I'm stressed about finances, Ronnie, I'm not feeling my best. I don't want to be intimate. I don't know if I want to be touched. It's more of, let's just do this thing just because we have to do it. But really connecting to the intimacy part, what do you think is the best way to improve your sexual relationship during this time?
It is being honest about where you are. From the sex and the intimacy. Because sex is not something that you do, as it is a place you go. And so by that, when we're talking about, let's just put it in terms of intimacy. You mentioned that of not wanting to be touched. That, again, if you're not willing to be touched, then let's find out why. Is it the money? Is it the belief that maybe you only want to be intimate because you've got nothing else to do? Now you've got kids who are, one time you're used to them being out and about. Now they can't go anywhere because they're stuck home. So if you're the noisy couple, do you want your kids to be in it? So again, I would say communication. And let me add to that, effective communication. Because the key is making sure that you both comprehend what you're both trying to express to each other. So something as simple as, okay, sweetheart, what do I need to do? And get us to this place where you do feel comfortable and you do want to be touched. Maybe it's going to start out with not touching, but just a simple conversation, a glass of wine, or maybe reading poetry. What about writing her a love poem? The basics. Women more than anything want to be mentally stimulated before they can talk about going anywhere else. And men, we tend to forget that from time to time. So it's okay to be reminded. So again, I will go back to talking and asking a question. Sweetheart, what do I need to do? Because this is how I feel to you. I want you to feel wanted. I want you to feel appreciated. I want you to know that I have you through this challenging time that we have together. Help me along the way to get you to that point.
And I love how you're talking about the emotional connectedness, because like you said, for women it really is about what's going on in the mind that transfers into the body. I was reading this study earlier that talked about how the satisfaction in the bedroom really comes from what's going on outside. So if I am irritable, if I am under a lot of stress, then 9 times out of 10, that transfers over into the bedroom. So, to get some things like heated up, it's possible to also be loving, outside of the bedroom, to, like you said, having that communication, but even that nonverbal communication of, being just a little bit not so harsh, not making everything where, I know for me, wearing so many different hats, being able to not fuss so much, where it comes across as like you're nagging and you want everything done, and because you're all in this close quarter, everything is like, I need this done, but showing a little bit more of compassion, I would say, because it's not always that everything has to be like perfect, but what's actually working. So complimenting your significant other and affirming to him that what he is doing, whatever that is, however small that is a benefit, because then if you're relaxed and you're soft, then that spouse can soften up to you as well. Would you agree with that?
I absolutely agree. And if I may reach out to the men, please, that when you ask the question, you listen with not a defensive heart. If you really are sincere about what you're looking for, make sure you're listening with an open heart and open head, and knowing that what she wants to do is just really communicate to her. So just make sure you don't get defensive. Just say, okay,
Yeah.
I'll work on this.
Why do you think it is that sometimes when we're up under stress that it does tend to be where we're defensive? You spoke to men, but even i.e., both partners being defensive and not really hearing the other person's heart, and so sort of missing each other. Why do you think that really happens or tends to happen?
I think because we're in a performance-driven society.
Okay.
So it's about the destination, what you can complete.
Yeah.
You're looking at the orgasm and not the connection.
Come on. Can you speak more to that? Can we go back to that when you talk about that? You're going to have to break that down for those that are listening. So say that again for people.
It's more about the connection than the destination.
Yeah.
One of the ways, and I'll make this personal. One of the defining moments in my life is learning the difference between making love and sex. And knowing that it's not just about me.
Yes.
With the right person, you make it about her, she will 100% make it about you.
Yeah.
And so you're both feeding into each other's needs.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about that, because we're not just talking about if you give all your energy just to your genitals, then you've missed the boat.
Yeah.
Because still mentally, the stimulation has to be, and you made reference to that in saying that you don't feel like it, maybe because of all the things that you have going on mentally. You can't turn the rest of the body on.
Yeah.
And again, when we're talking about communication, what does it stimulate? The endorphins in the brain.
Yeah.
And then leading to the rest of the body. The look in the eyes, the touch of the lips.
Yes.
And everything from there flows.
Yes. I love it. I love it.
And
Effective
so
communication.
Connection on that level, very visceral and very intense. It's the way, the tonality when you say, I love you, and say it in a way that if you're looking in eyes, she believes it.
Yeah.
She feels safe.
Yeah.
He feels safe. He feels attractive.
Yeah.
Because it's both. It's not just her, it's him as well, as
it's
you
both.
mentioned.
That's right.
But that's the connection part.
I like how you mentioned and you talked about something there about feeling safe, because if you're not vulnerable, and we'll touch on that in just a second, if you're not making yourself vulnerable to that other person to really talk to them about what you're stressed about, what you're irritable about, then that still further diminishes what you're actually trying to establish. So even being able to, and I'll say this, very candidly, sometimes we don't know like why we're irritable or why we're, ticked off or whatever, realizing that the stressors of working from home or having lack of finances, sometimes you need to be able just to connect with your spouse, okay, or your significant other, period. It didn't even have to do with anything, outside. It's just because I need to be able to have that emotional and physical connection that then once I have my release, my orgasm, then my brain, I can be more calm and I can be more relaxed and I can have the clarity that I need, and I won't be so irritable towards these kids. I won't be so irritable when I'm on the phone trying to get this work done. So can we talk to that, sir?
Wow. What does they say? An orgasm a day will keep the stress away.
I've never heard that, Ronnie. Really?
I just made it up. Look, I mean, there's a number of articles that will tell you about the power of an orgasm. But again, there's many ways one can achieve an orgasm. But an orgasm with someone that you feel a connection to, someone that you feel safe with.
Yeah.
There is no equal.
Yeah.
And from my experience personally, and from the experience of listening to so many couples over the years, we could spend the rest of this afternoon just talking about the importance of your partner feeling safe.
Yeah.
insecure.
Mm-hmm.
Again, add that to a good orgasm. You just said it. I mean, it helps the day
Mm-hmm.
go by better. Better than a glass of wine or your favorite beverage.
Yes.
Because it deals with the endorphins. One of the reasons you find that people who work out so often is what it does is triggers in the brain. Because a lot of this and what we're talking about really is science.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when you understand the science of it all and the benefits of what you need your body to do to achieve certain results,
yeah,
you just tend to gravitate more to it.
Yeah.
Now, you can do that in destructive ways in terms of be it excessive alcohol or excessive drugs or sex acts. But when you're talking about it in the terms of being with someone that you care for and know that someone cares for you,
yeah,
again, that just in the form of a good orgasm helps solve many a problem that you didn't think that you could solve.
yeah, yeah. And so what you're saying is we, to stop some of that fighting, we need to be having more orgasms. Yeah.
Make love, not war.
Yes, yes. So let me ask this, because I hear couples talking about this. I've read the research as well. How much is too much? Like how much sex should a couple be having, especially during this time? We're talking about the ultimate in orgasms and that decreasing the stress and being able to connect to your partner so that irritability and some of those things can, decrease. How much is too much? Like where should I actually start? Do you feel like that's more in the communication? What's your thought on that?
I've been asked this, funny enough you mentioned, I've been asked this of late quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe even in a relationship, when I'm talking marriage, consent is everything.
Yeah.
Consent is everything. To say that there is a definitive answer, I really don't think I have the answer for that.
Yeah.
And I think it would vary based on the couple. But if you wish to still continue to go on and your partner is not there, then respect your partner's wishes.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Because you never want to be in a situation in an intimate level where they're doing it because they feel obligated. She's got to want to do it. He's got to want to do it. This is something that you both are trying to do because the energy is there.
Yeah.
So I think from my experience and from the experience professionally as talking to many couples, it's really a case by case. I really couldn't tell you that there is a definitive cutoff point.
Yeah. And I would tend to agree with that because it's based upon the couple and their needs and where they are, developmentally, even in their marriage. I mean, that marriage goes through different stages and depending upon what stressors are going on, that is going to affect how often, maybe one couple to another is having sex. So, when couples ask me that question, I think one of the things that you can really hone on is it's more about quality, versus how much. Quality
Absolutely.
versus how frequent you're doing it, and like you said, that communication, if both of you are, comfortable and you're not feeling obligated and you're okay with, 2-3 times a week or whatever, however that is for the couple. Because hey, I've heard that from couples as well, and they're perfectly fine with that. Then I should not be compared to somebody who, might say that they have to have sex every day, every other day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Well, so let me ask my final question to you is, couples and people come in relationships and, you have a lot of baggage that you might be coming with. And so some of the things that I've worked with is, people having their own personal traumas and things that they have to overcome, whether that's a childhood trauma, for that male, even talking about today with the Black Lives Matter, feeling appreciated, not feeling heard. So how do you begin to have those conversations and still increase that sexual intimacy, or maybe that emotional intimacy. I shouldn't say sexual, because that we're defining that in a context. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you begin to bridge that gap? Would you say that it's still more communication? Should the person be patient? If I'm a person that every time you touch me, it reminds me of this other abusive or toxic relationship. And so, it leaves that partner frustrated, and then you're feeling a certain type of way. So talk to me about that.
I would say, yes, it does go back to effective communication. But that starts with you, person who's dealing with whatever. And if that starts with writing it down in a letter to yourself, looking in the mirror and speaking, be honest about what needs to be worked on.
Yeah.
And be open and honest with yourself to know that, and believe that your partner has your best interest at heart. And if it's something that they don't know, do not be above going to seek help.
Yeah. Yes.
I think, and that's something I can't tell you enough, that I'm so happy to see more spaces where people are reaching out, particularly to Black men, to address the needs of mental health and dealing with traumas. Because, we, at least I can speak from my generation of men, that is not something that we were, conditioned to do. We were conditioned to suck it up and tough it out, not cry. And a lot of these things on top of things that we may have dealt with in school, as a Black man navigating America, or just in terms of relationships, we need to address. And sometimes that does involve going to seek help. Yeah.
I love how you say that about the seeking help, because throughout this process in working with different males, that is something that's a challenge in the beginning, is opening up about what it is that they're actually feeling, and being comfortable, and like we said before, safe enough to say what's actually going on, because some of the sentiment is that I've not been heard for so long, where do I actually start? And then, and here's the thing, we might not solve all of those things that come up for you, within one setting, but at least getting the stuff out, right? Getting those emotions and how you're feeling about whatever, whether it be lack of sex. Sometimes because you're bottling everything up, you're not able to maybe perform, as you said, this performance-driven society, you're not able to, meet those needs for your spouse or your significant other sexually. So, yeah.
Yes, because if there's one thing that I've heard from men is, they were fearful that they would not be looked at as a man they've been viewed as in their partners. And two, finding someone who they feel can relate to them as a Black man.
Yeah.
Some people try to dance around the issue of race, but, in a lot of ways, sometimes the traumas that these Black men are dealing with, they have trouble communicating that to a white woman or to a white man.
Yeah.
So the resources, they don't feel that they are there. But it starts with being honest with yourself and realizing that maybe I need to address that, and then having the honest conversation with the woman that you're spending the rest of your life with. And they were all surprised to find out that she looked at him the same. And in fact, the love and connection grew deeper because she felt another part of him opening up. And this is a journey that together they worked on. So it's beautiful.
Yes, I love that. So, this has been so helpful, Ronnie. I feel like I want to have like a part 2, because the more that we continue to talk about these issues that are compiled that couples face, it's not just a one-time conversation. And some of the things that we've identified to be able to open up the conversation about sex, because sometimes it's a taboo and uncomfortable topic, but the more that you talk about, it's nothing wrong with telling your partner or significant other what pleases you. I mean, this is the person that you're saying that you're wanting to spend the rest of your life with, that you are till death do us part. So there's, part of the course, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to tell you how to please me. And the same, vice versa. So I appreciate your time. I wanted to ask, those who are listening, I know that you've been getting some valuable information. How can we reach you? If we want to work specifically with you in those areas and starting the conversation, what do we need to do to reach out to you?
You're going to go to www.resultswithronnie.com or www.mrrelationshipman.com.
Yes.
You'll have a podcast, and there's a number of things that you could, on a menu, that you can drop down and say, okay, I want a consultation on any of these given things.
Yes.
And with that, you can also reach out in Ronnie at resultswithronnie.com.
Yes.
And send an email. And I do have the podcast, which talks about exceptional relationships, why is dating so hard, and many more things to come. And I'm looking forward to having you as well on my podcast.
Oh, wow. I would love that.
I had to put you on the spot.
I would absolutely love that, because this is a conversation that we need to keep having. Yes.
So I'm definitely going to set aside and really get my audience ready for this conversation that we're going to have, because I think we have quite a few things that we can definitely go over, and I think that's some value to many couples out there as well.
Yes, sir. And so again, if you've heard what Ronnie has said, we've dropped a lot of things, and you're probably surprised at some of the things that we've actually said, but it's very needed, especially when you're talking about, again, what's pleasurable, having those open conversations. And so if you're looking to go deeper in your relationship, you can reach out to Ronnie Walker. You can reach out to myself. This week, Ronnie starts my Breakthrough 2.0 4-week program, and I'm so excited about that. It starts July the 1st. And so if you have not scheduled your breakthrough call, I want you to click on the link that we're going to leave here. Also, if you're listening and this is something that you haven't heard, I want you to respond and let us know, so that we can continue to bring you those content, so that we can continue to bring great value to the things that you might have questions for. Listen, there's no shame when you're talking about trying to get the help and the resources, and they are definitely available. This has been a wonderful conversation. I look forward to having many more. My name is Paulicia Aguilard. I am your relationship coach, and I'm helping you transform